Hi children, good morning. Welcome to E-class. Today we are going to discuss about what are the international standards of the units. Then how can we measure the materials? Why should we measure the materials? Before that, in the previous class, we were discussed ancient measurements like cubic, foot, and arms. So these are the in a olden days, and still some of the areas we are using this kind of the measurements, that is the ancient measurements. After getting lot of the argues, because of the tall people are having the more measurements instead of the short people. So a lot of the differences came between the people to people or the kingdom to kingdom. Then finally in France they are modified one meter, that is called platinum iridium. That rod name is called platinum iridium, that make a standard unit, isn't it? So that is a finalized, and now throughout the world we are using the same meter only. Am I clear? So these are the things behind of the measurements. Nowadays we all are using like a scales, plastic scale, iron scale, or wooden scale, or when you take the meters, isn't it? So these are the using in a small things as well as a big things also. So that a lot of the development came from the day by day when you come, isn't it? So let's see what is the standard unit. See children, standard units are the units we usually use to measure the weight, length, or capacity of the objects. So whatever it may be, it has to be done by the standard units only. So that we have to finalize. So children, let's see how can we use, or already you know this all the things in your maths, but once again we'll go. It is entering and we have to relate it with our science. In a physical science, let's see. So children, 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. If we have any scale, one scale is there, just you find out. So there 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters. Just we find out from the scale, isn't it? That we can find and just found. And children, 1 kilometer is equal to 1000 meters. Understand? 1 kilometer is equal to 1000 meters. So these are the measurements we apply in the tiny things as well as long distances also. Small things and as well as long distances also we can measure, isn't it? So some of the irregular shapes are there, some of the up and down is there, or some of the length is there, not shaped in a clearly. So this all the things are there that will know very clearly in a later, isn't it? So now let's see, if we take a person from the classroom or from your house, so the same is but different measurements are we can notice. If you have the sisters are there, no, you just find out. So different measurements are we can be seen or notice of this type of the measurements. So children, we have to measure with very carefully, and also there are the precautions we have to take about these measurements, that is also we can see. Am I clear children? Now let's see how these measurements are there. Okay, children, let's we see now units of measurements. So already we were discussed standard unit and how the meters are come, millimeters to centimeters, centimeters to meter, meter to kilometers. Understand? Now let's we see this units of measurements, unit of their length, what are materials, I mean what type of the lengths we are using, and the symbols also very important. So here meter, so a small the symbol of the M for meter, isn't it? Now let's see centimeters, so cm, so centimeters. Next millimeters, mm, it will come. These are the symbols. Now feet, so small f and e. Next square meters, m square. So square centimeter, cm square. Square millimeter, mm square. Square feet, ft square. So these are the common symbols we can easily identify. In the further, they will not give in a detail this is a meter. They will give only a symbol of this like this, all the things, isn't it? So these are the very common things we can use in the future, isn't it? So you have to be noticed and write down this units length and the symbols. You have to keep in your mind. By understanding only we can be remember these things. Then further classes when you go, they ask you to only these symbols only. They will not ask all things, isn't it? So these are the very important. Next, when we have a class, then how to take precautions while we measure. Understand? Next, when we will take a class, let's see how to take precautions to measure the things, and measurements also we can have, isn't it? So these all the things please remember in your mind, and olden ancient methods what we were used and till we are using applicable in our life also, isn't it? But this is the standard unit in the world. We are using all the people, all the countries also, isn't it? Okay, have a nice day.
The lesson on units of measure. In this video, we will discuss various units of measure, and we'll also introduce the SI system of measurement. To begin, let's define what a measurement is and what it actually means to measure something. Well, in science, a measurement is considered the assignment of a numerical value to an object's physical property. Measuring physical properties such as length, volume, and density is very common. For example, you might want to know the length of a line, the volume of a sphere, or the density of a liquid. Whenever we take measurements, we also have to assign units to the numerical quantity in order to convey the relative size or magnitude of the property in question. For instance, if I said the length of my shoe was 10, you wouldn't actually know how long my shoe was because there would be no context for what the 10 represents. In fact, this measure would only make sense if the number 10 had a unit of measure to go along with it. So what is a unit of measure? In order to have accurate and reproducible ways to define magnitudes of length, volume, density, etc., scientists have developed various systems of measure. These systems are made up of units of measure, which are basically standardized amounts of various physical quantities. The SI system is the international system of measure used by scientists. It is a very comprehensive system with many units of measure. However, we will only need to cover a few of these units in order to prepare for the T's. The fundamental physical properties you will need to know for the T's are as follows: mass, length, temperature, and time. You can see that for each property there is a mathematical label which is used in formulas, and the actual name of the corresponding SI unit or measure. Please feel free to pause the video and familiarize yourself with the information on this chart. Notice that the chart refers to these units as base units because they help to define more complex units, which are called derived units. For example, area is a physical property that uses a unit called meters squared. Since meters squared requires the meter in order to be defined, it is considered a derived measure or unit. Let's walk through an example that will illustrate how the meter is actually used to define area.